Hey y'all, guess who? Me again. Jerry William Bowers Jr., a dude from Facebook. Okay, you've been punished enough with this mugshot of mine. Last program I did was called 2 Minute Eschatology, and I showed a connection from the Valley of Dry Bones in Ezekiel 37 to Revelation 21:3, which again ties back to 2 Corinthians 6:16, where Paul says, "Don't you know that you are the temple of the living God?" And that was part of that promise back there in Ezekiel 37's Valley of Dry Bones. And it's shown fulfilled in Revelation 21:3, which is just before that other verse that talks about no more tears, sorrow, crying, pain. So there's some connections that need to be looked at. I got another episode here that I'm going to do on 2 Minute Eschatology, and that's the Avenging of Righteous Blood. And again, because this is about the Bible, please forgive the title for the people that are weird about this, but it is figurative. I am using this 2 Minute Eschatology figuratively. You can do it a lot quicker. You can take your time. You can add a whole lot of information to it if you want, because believe me, there's plenty to go. But here's where I typically start out with this. It's right here. Deuteronomy 32. Give ear, O ye heavens, and I will speak, and hear, O earth, the words of my mouth. Now, is Moses speaking to heaven and the planet there? We can get into that in a little more detail in a follow-up I'll be doing of this, but this is just kind of a quick introduction. I do believe Deuteronomy 32 is very critically underused in Christian understanding of eschatology, and I think it is absolutely vital. But another thing that I discovered along the way is Deuteronomy 32 taught without Deuteronomy 31. Well, you're really only getting part of the story, because here you see in the beginning of Deuteronomy 31, and Moses went and spake all these words unto Israel. Now wait a minute. You remember the introduction in chapter 32? Give ear, O ye heavens, and I will speak. Hear, O earth, the words of my mouth. Well, here one chapter earlier, he's talking to Israel. And he said unto them, I am 120 years old this day, I can go out no more, come in. Also the Lord has said unto me, thou shalt not go over to this Jordan. Moses was not going to go in and take the promised land with them. But here he gives them what is called the Song of Moses, and that's really important because you find it again in the book of Revelation. But again, as you need to teach these together, one of the primary reasons that I'm trying to point out here is mentioned towards the end of this chapter, where Moses tells them, For I know that thy rebellion and thy stiff neck, behold, while I'm yet alive with you this day, you have been rebellious against the Lord, and how much more after my death. Gather unto me the elders of your tribes and your officers, that I may speak these words in their ears, and call heaven and earth to record against them. For I know that after my death you will utterly corrupt yourself, and turn aside from the way that which I have commanded you, and evil will befall you in the latter days, because you will do evil in the sight of the Lord, to provoke him to anger throughout the work of your hands. Did you see that again? The introduction to Deuteronomy 31 tells us who the audience is, and that's Israel. And it stipulates in here it was what was going to happen to Israel in the latter days. So now we get into Deuteronomy 32. Give ear, O ye heavens, and I will speak, and hear, O earth, the words of my mouth. Again, he's referring to Israel. But he uses symbolic language, and again, that's something that will be discussed in detail in continuous episodes that we do here. But what I want to talk about here is how in these latter days, this would be also the avenging of righteous blood. And we see that all through the book of Revelation. That is the primary theme of the book of Revelation, as far as I'm concerned, after the salvation, of course, but still one of the primary themes in Revelation is the vindication of the martyrs, the avenging of righteous blood. We can find it in Revelation chapter 6. We find it in Revelation chapter 16, chapter 17, chapter 18, chapter 19, chapter 20. You get the idea. But since we are right here talking to Israel, let's look at what happens. In Deuteronomy 32, what you're going to find in there is this is a snapshot of Israel's history from the time that they get ready to cross over into the Promised Land, throughout their different journeys and adventures and punishments, etc., all the way up to their latter days. They look at verse 5. They have corrupted themselves. Their spot is the spot of his children. They are a perverse and crooked generation. That comes in handy when you're looking for the companion verses in the New Testament. Two other things I want to point out here real quick. Verse 20. And he said, I will hide my face from them. I will see what their end shall be. Again, who's the audience? Israel. What their end shall be. And just to summarize that again, we go to verse 29. Oh, that they were wise, that they understood this, that they would consider their latter end. And again, the subject for discussion here is the avenging of righteous blood. And I bring that up specifically from this chapter. Oh, look at verse 35. To me belong vengeance and recompense. You see, this is slowly progressing through Israel from the time that they go into the Promised Land up until their latter days. So this is their chronology in the Promised Land. But one of the verses that I want to get to here is right here. Verse 43. This is Deuteronomy 32, verse 43. Rejoice, O ye nations, with his people, for he will avenge the blood of his servants, and will render vengeance to his adversaries, and be merciful unto his land and unto his people. Again, vengeance. The vengeance of the saints, the vengeance of the martyrs, the vengeance of the prophets. This is what is being discussed here in saying that it is still a prophecy yet to happen. For he will avenge the blood of his servants. Now, look at what we're going to go to next. This is in Revelation chapter 19, verse 2. For true and righteous are his judgments, for he has judged the great whore, which did corrupt the earth with her fornication, and has avenged the blood of his servants at her hand. You see that? That's bookends. Deuteronomy 32:43 is the prophecy that was yet to be fulfilled. Revelation 19 verse 2 is the fulfillment of that. He has avenged, he will avenge. So, you see the bookends. Now, when was this particular thing to take place? The avenging of righteous blood. Well, as I said, even in Revelation, you can find it in chapter 6, you can find it in chapter 10, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. But one of the things that I want to go to here, Matthew chapter 23. Look at Jesus here. He's inside the temple, just absolutely blasting them. Wherefore, behold, I send unto you prophets and wise men and scribes, and some of them you shall kill and crucify. Some of them you will scourge in your synagogues and persecute them from city to city, that upon you may come all the righteous blood shed upon the earth, from the blood of righteous Abel until the blood of Zacharias, son of Barachias, whom you killed between the temple and the altar. Verily I say unto you, all these things will come upon this generation. Where this is, of course, important, even that it does mention the righteous blood, we got to back up here a little bit to where Christ mentions, again, at the beginning of this, where he says, I send unto you prophets and wise men and scribes. All of the righteous blood from Abel up till that point, including the blood of Zacharias, who was killed between the temple and the altar. So, Deuteronomy 32:43, he will avenge the blood of his servants. Revelation 19:2, he has avenged the blood of his servants. When was this supposed to happen? There you have it in Matthew chapter 23, verses 34 through 36. And just in case there's any confusion as to who the audience is, verse 37 begins with, O Jerusalem, Jerusalem. Again, this is a very large subject. Eschatology, the end times. Single largest topic in the Bible as far as content in the Bible. Again, depending on who you trust, they say approximately 30% of the Bible is eschatology. So that's a big chunk. And again, here, we're only doing this in microburst sound bites, if you will, trying to get you to just see how easy it is to see from a distance, but you still need to go in and study the rest of the information to try to get that figured out. And in case you want some additional information you can use on that, here's the article that's on my website, The Avenging of Righteous Blood. This is my last days end times.yolasite.com. Big name. Pre-website. So, Avenging of Righteous Blood. And as you can see, this encompasses a lot of information. I go through, I counted it one time, I'm not real sure, but I believe I reference close to 90 verses. Oh, look at that right there. I think I referenced like 90 verses in this. So, this is, I believe, one of the longest articles that I've ever written. And I will leave a link to it below the video on YouTube. But as you can see, there's a lot of information to consider here, even just on this one topic. So again, I hope you can appreciate what it can be shown again from a distance, just from a quick study. But always go in and find it out for yourself. Test it yourself. Prove it to yourself. As always, if you appreciate the video, if you appreciate the content, if you appreciate what we're trying to do here, please like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, comment underneath the video. Let's get some conversation going. Until next time, God bless you. It's Jerry W. Bowers Jr. signing out.